David stared at his laptop screen for the third time that evening, reading the same advertisement over and over again. The words seemed impossible, yet here they were, displayed on a legitimate website with proper certifications and everything. Interspecies, companion services, experience meaningful connection across the stars. He rubbed his tired eyes and leaned back in his desk chair. The apartment felt bigger and emptier every day. It had been 8 months since Lisa moved out, taking half the furniture and most of the warmth with her. The divorce papers were signed, the lawyers paid, and now David found himself completely alone for the first time in 6 years. His friends meant well with their constant invitations to bars and social events, but David felt like he was sleepwalking through conversations. Dating apps were a disaster. Every coffee date felt forced, every dinner awkward. He was starting to think he had forgotten how to connect with people. That's when he stumbled across this website during one of his late-night internet browsing sessions. At first he thought it was some kind of joke or science fiction story. But the more he read, the more real it seemed. 5 years had passed since first contact with an alien species called the Zalathi. The initial shock had worn off, and now there were trade agreements, cultural exchanges, and apparently companion services. David clicked through the website's information pages. The Zalathi were described as a peaceful species facing economic challenges on their home planet. Many young adults volunteered for work programs on Earth to support their families back home. The companion program was one option, where Zalathi individuals would live with humans and help with daily tasks while learning about Earth culture. The whole thing felt strange, but David couldn't shake the loneliness that had been eating at him. He lived alone, worked from home as a website developer, and sometimes went days without having a real conversation with another person. His sister lived across the country, his parents had passed away years ago, and his social circle had shrunk after the divorce. After a week of thinking about it, David finally called the number on the website. The representative, a cheerful woman named Janet, explained the process in detail. It wasn't what David had imagined at all. The Zalathi volunteers go through extensive training, Janet explained. They learn basic English, human customs, and Earth safety protocols. Think of it more like hosting an exchange student who also helps around the house. But they get paid for this? David asked, still feeling unsure about the whole arrangement. Yes, they receive compensation that they can send home to their families or save for their own future plans. Many use the program as a stepping stone to other opportunities on Earth, like education or permanent employment. The cost was significant, but not unreasonable. David had been saving money since the divorce anyway, with no real plans for it. The contract was for 6 months, with options for extension if both parties agreed. "We have a young woman named Zara who might be a good match for you," Janet continued. She's 24 years old, has completed advanced English training, and specifically requested placement with someone in the technology field. She's interested in learning about human innovation and culture. David spent 3 more days thinking about it. He researched everything he could find about the Zalathi species and the companion programs. Most of the reviews were positive, though there were certainly critics who called the whole thing unethical. Others argued that it provided valuable opportunities for both species to learn from each other. Finally, David made the decision. He signed the contracts, transferred the payment, and waited nervously for Zara's arrival date. The day she was supposed to arrive, David cleaned his apartment 3 times. He bought groceries, including some of the Zalathi-friendly foods the LAR agency had recommended. He set up the spare bedroom with fresh linens and even bought a small plant for the windowsill, thinking it might make the space feel more welcoming. At exactly 2 p.m., there was a soft knock at his door. David's heart was beating fast as he walked over and opened it. Standing in the hallway was someone unlike anyone he had ever seen. Zara was small, maybe 5 feet tall, with pale blue skin that seemed to shimmer slightly in the light. Her eyes were larger than human eyes, a deep green color, and her hair was silver white and cut short. She wore simple earth clothes, jeans, and a sweater, but somehow looked both familiar and completely foreign at the same time. "Hello," she said in careful English, her voice soft and melodic. "I am Zara. You are David, yes?" Yes, I'm David," he replied, realizing he was staring. "Please come in." She stepped into the apartment carrying a small bag, looking around with those large eyes. David had expected to feel awkward, but her presence was somehow calming, rather than strange. "Your home is very nice," Zara said, though she seemed nervous. "I will try to be good companion for you. I have studied human customs and will help with household tasks." The way she spoke made David feel uncomfortable, like she was reciting from a manual. "You don't need to worry about being perfect," he said gently. "I'm just happy to have some company." Zara nodded but still looked uncertain. David showed her to her room, explaining where everything was in the apartment. She listened carefully to every word, occasionally asking questions about how things worked. "Are you hungry?" David asked after the tour. "I bought some of the foods they said you might like." "That is very kind," Zara replied. "But I can prepare my own meals. I do not want to be burden." "You're not a burden," David said, meaning it. "I was going to make dinner anyway. Why don't we cook together?" For the first time since she arrived, Zara smiled. It was a small smile, but genuine. "I would like that very much." As they prepared a simple pasta dinner together, David found himself relaxing. Zara asked questions about the ingredients and cooking methods, genuinely curious about how humans prepared food. She seemed fascinated by the most ordinary things, the way the pasta changed texture when cooked, how the sauce bubbled in the pan, even the sound the timer made. "On my world," she said as they sat down to eat, "we do not cook food this way. This is a very interesting process." "What's cooking like on your planet?" David asked. Zara paused, as if choosing her words carefully. "It is more simple, less creative, I think. We have rules for everything. This is more free." Something in her tone made David curious, but he didn't want to push too hard on her first day. Instead, he asked about her journey to Earth and what she hoped to learn during her stay. "I want to understand human innovation," she said, her eyes lighting up with interest. "Your species creates so many different solutions for same problems. Very fascinating." As the evening went on, David realized that Zara wasn't what he had expected at all. The agency had made it sound like she would be helpful but somewhat formal, like having a polite housekeeper. Instead, she seemed genuinely excited about everything around her. She asked if she could examine his computer setup, marveling at the multiple monitors and asking detailed questions about his work. "You create websites?" she asked, leaning forward with interest. "Like digital spaces where humans share information?" "Exactly," David said, pleased by her enthusiasm. "Would you like to see how it works?" He spent the next hour showing her some basic web development, and Zara absorbed every detail like a sponge. She understood concepts quickly and asked thoughtful questions that showed she was really thinking about what he was teaching her. By the time they said goodnight, David felt something he hadn't experienced in months: genuine contentment. Not just because he wasn't alone anymore, but because Zara seemed truly happy to be there. She thanked him multiple times for dinner and for showing her his work, and her gratitude felt completely sincere. As David lay in bed that night, he couldn't help but wonder what he had gotten himself into. Zara wasn't just a companion to fill the silence in his apartment. She was a person with her own interests and curiosity, someone who seemed to find joy in things he had stopped noticing long ago. For the first time since his divorce, David was actually looking forward to tomorrow. 3 weeks had passed since Zara arrived, and David's life had changed in ways he never expected. Every morning he woke up to the smell of something delicious cooking in the kitchen. Zara had taken it upon herself to prepare breakfast, but not the simple earth foods he had stocked. Instead, she was making dishes from her home world using ingredients she somehow managed to find at local specialty stores. "Try this," Zara said one Tuesday morning, placing a plate of what looked like purple pancakes in front of him. "It is called Nala bread on my planet. Very nutritious." David took a bite and was surprised by the sweet, nutty flavor. "This is incredible. How did you learn to make this here?" Zara's eyes lit up with excitement. "I found shop downtown that sells foods from many worlds. Owner is very kind human named Mrs. Chen. She helps me find ingredients and teaches me about earth spices too." What amazed David most was how curious Zara was about everything. She had filled 3 notebooks with sketches and observations about daily human life. He found her one evening drawing detailed pictures of his coffee maker, complete with notes written in her native language. "What are you writing about a coffee maker?" David asked, sitting beside her at the kitchen table. "I am documenting human innovation," Zara explained, not looking up from her drawing. "Your species creates tools for very specific purposes. On my world, we have one device for heating liquids, but humans make special machine just for coffee, another for tea, another for soup. Very interesting approach to problem solving." David had never thought about his coffee maker as innovative, but seeing it through Zara's eyes made him realize how many small inventions humans took for granted. She was fascinated by everything from can openers to television remote controls. "Can you show me how internet works?" Zara asked one day while David was coding. "I understand it connects humans across planet. But how does information travel so fast?" David spent the afternoon explaining networks, servers, and data transmission. Zara listened intently, asking questions that showed she understood complex concepts quickly. She was particularly interested in how humans use technology to share knowledge and connect with each other. "On my world, information sharing is very controlled," she said quietly. "Only certain people can access certain knowledge. But here anyone can learn almost anything. Very different." Something in her tone made David pause. "What do you mean?" "Controlled?" Zara hesitated, then seemed to choose her words carefully. "My people have very organized society. Everyone has specific role, specific level of access to information. It maintains order." "But you wanted to learn about human technology," David said. "Were you allowed to study that on your planet?" "No," Zara replied simply. "That is why I came here." David was starting to understand that Zara's situation might be more complicated than he initially thought. She wasn't just here to help him and earn money for her family. She was here to learn things she couldn't access at home. That evening, while they watched a nature documentary about Earth's oceans, Zara suddenly grabbed David's arm with excitement. "Look at those creatures!" she exclaimed, pointing at a school of dolphins on the screen. "They communicate and play and learn from each other freely. No restrictions. No assigned roles. They just live." David watched her face as she stared at the television. There was something almost wistful in her expression, like she was seeing something she had only dreamed of. "Zara," he said gently, "what was your life like before you came here?" She was quiet for a long moment. "Very different," she finally said. "Very structured. I wake up at assigned time, eat assigned food, work at assigned task, sleep at assigned time. Every day, same routine, no choices, no variations, no surprises." "That sounds lonely," David said. "I did not know I was lonely until I came here," Zara replied. "I did not know what it felt like to choose what to eat for breakfast, or to stay up late reading interesting book, or to ask questions about anything I wanted to know. These seem like small things, but to me, they are everything." David felt a strange mix of emotions. He had been so focused on his own loneliness that he hadn't realized Zara was experiencing freedom for the first time in her life. What he saw as a simple living arrangement she saw as liberation. "Is that why you volunteered for this program?" he asked. "It was only legal way for someone like me to leave my world," Zara said. "In my society, I am from lower caste. We do not travel. We do not study advanced subjects. We do not make choices about our lives. But interplanetary work programs allow some of us to leave temporarily. I applied immediately when program was announced." David was beginning to understand why Zara seemed so happy doing ordinary things. Choosing her own clothes, deciding what to cook, asking questions about technology. These weren't just daily activities for her, they were acts of freedom. "I'm glad you're here," David said sincerely. Zara smiled, one of her genuine smiles that made her whole face light up. "I am glad too. You are very kind human, David. You treat me like equal, like friend. This is new experience for me, but I like it very much." That night, David lay awake thinking about their conversation. He had started this arrangement because he was lonely and wanted companionship, but now he realized that Zara needed this experience far more than he did. She wasn't just helping him feel less alone. She was discovering who she could be when given the chance to choose. By the second month, Zara had transformed David's quiet apartment into something that felt alive. She had bought plants for every room, explaining that her planet had very little greenery, and she wanted to understand how Earth plants grew. She spent hours tending to them, talking to them in her native language, and documenting their growth in her ever-expanding collection of notebooks. "David, look!" she called excitedly one morning, pointing to a small sprout emerging from a pot on the windowsill. "The seeds I planted are growing. In just 2 weeks, from tiny seed to living plant. On my world, this process takes much longer because of different soil and atmosphere." David found himself looking forward to her daily discoveries. Zara approached everything with such genuine wonder that it made him see his own world differently. She had convinced him to try foods he had never considered, listen to music from different cultures, and even start learning basic phrases in her language. But David was also noticing changes in himself. He was sleeping better, laughing more, and actually looking forward to each day. Having someone to share meals with, to talk about ideas with, to simply exist alongside, it had filled an emptiness he didn't even realize had been consuming him. One evening, while Zara was teaching him to prepare a traditional dish from her planet, she suddenly stopped stirring the pot and looked at him seriously. "David, I must tell you something important," she said, her voice quieter than usual. "What's wrong?" David asked, immediately concerned. "I have been corresponding with my family back home," Zara began, wringing her hands nervously. "They are very happy with money I send, but they also ask when I will return and accept marriage arrangement they have made for me." David's stomach dropped. "Marriage arrangement?" "Yes. In my society, families arrange partnerships based on social status and economic benefit. I was supposed to be married before I left, but I convinced them to let me come here first to earn money for wedding ceremony." David set down the spoon he was holding. "But what do you want?" Zara looked surprised by the question. "What I want?" "Yes. What do you want? Not your family, not your society's rules. What would make you happy?" Zara was quiet for a long time, staring at the bubbling pot. "I want to stay here," she whispered. "I want to keep learning, keep choosing my own path. I want to study at Earth University and become researcher. I want to help other beings from my world understand that there are different ways to live." "Then why don't you?" David asked gently. "Because my contract here is only for 6 months, Zara said, tears forming in her large green eyes. "And I do not know if it is possible for someone like me to stay longer. I am from lower caste. I do not have many options." David reached out and gently touched her shoulder. "Have you researched what options might exist?" "I have been afraid to look," Zara admitted. If there are no options, then I prefer to enjoy remaining time here rather than worry about impossible future. What if we looked into it together? David suggested. I know some people who work with interplanetary immigration law. Maybe there are possibilities you don't know about. Zara looked up at him with hope in her eyes. You would help me with this? Of course, David said without hesitation. You've become my friend, Zara. I want you to be happy, whatever that means for you. The next day, David spent hours researching alien residency laws and contacting immigration lawyers. What he discovered was both encouraging and complicated. There were pathways for aliens to extend their stay on Earth, but they required either sponsorship from an employer, enrollment in an educational institution, or asylum status for those facing persecution. I found some possibilities, David told Zara that evening, showing her the information he had gathered. The most promising option is applying for student status. Several universities have interspecies programs, and some even offer scholarships specifically for alien students. Zara read through the materials with growing excitement. There is a program here for xenobiology, the study of life forms from different planets. This is exactly what I want to study. The application process is competitive, David warned. But your documentation of Earth life and your insights about the differences between our worlds could make a strong application. Over the next week, Zara threw herself into preparing an application. She organized all her notebooks, translated her observations into English, and wrote essays about her goals for interspecies research. David helped her with the technical aspects of the application, but the passion and intelligence behind it were entirely hers. I never imagined I could apply to university, Zara said one night as she worked on her personal statement. On my world, higher education is only for upper castes, but here they evaluate applications based on merit and potential, not family status. David watched her work with a mixture of admiration and something else he was trying not to name. Over the past weeks, his feelings for Zara had evolved beyond simple companionship. He cared about her happiness, her dreams, her future. But he also knew their relationship had started in an artificial way, and he didn't want to complicate her pursuit of freedom with his own emotions. When Zara submitted her application, they celebrated with a dinner of her favorite Earth foods and some traditional dishes from her planet. As they sat talking late into the night about her hopes for the future, David realized something important had shifted between them. They were no longer just a lonely human and an alien companion fulfilling a contract. They had become two people who genuinely cared about each other's well-being and happiness. But David also knew that the most important thing was Zara's independence. Whatever happened next, it had to be her choice, made freely and without pressure. She deserved the chance to discover who she could become when truly free to choose her own path. The acceptance letter arrived on a Tuesday morning in late spring. David heard Zara's excited shout from the kitchen and rushed in to find her holding an official-looking document, tears of joy streaming down her face. "I got in!" she exclaimed, practically bouncing with excitement. "Full scholarship to the interspecies biology program at Central University. They said my application showed exceptional insight into cross-cultural observation." David felt a surge of pride and happiness. For her, followed immediately by a more complicated emotion. Zara getting into university meant she would be staying on Earth, which made him incredibly happy. But it also meant their current living arrangement would change, and he wasn't sure what that meant for their relationship. "Congratulations," he said, pulling her into a hug. "You deserve this completely. Your research has been amazing." "I could not have done this without your help," Zara said, still clutching the letter. "You encouraged me to believe it was possible." The next few weeks were a whirlwind of paperwork, visa applications, and preparation for Zara's transition from companion program to student status. David helped her navigate the bureaucracy, but he also found himself dealing with representatives from the companion agency who were not happy about losing a client mid-contract. "This is highly unusual," Janet from the agency said during a video call. The contract clearly states 6 months of service. Zara still has 2 months remaining. But she's pursuing legal educational status, David explained. Surely the agency supports companions advancing their opportunities. The agency supports fulfilling contractual obligations, Janet replied coolly. If Zara breaks contract early, there could be financial penalties and impact on her immigration status. After the call, David found Zara sitting quietly on the couch, looking worried. Maybe I should wait, she said. Complete my contract first, then apply for next year's program. But you'd have to go back to your planet in between. David pointed. Out. Would your family let you return to Earth? Zara shook her head. No. They expect me to come home and marry as planned. This is my only chance. David made a decision that surprised even him. Then we fight this. I'll hire a lawyer if necessary. You have the right to pursue educational opportunities. David, that could be very expensive, Zara protested. I don't care about the money, David said firmly. This is your future we're talking about. The legal process was complicated but not impossible. David's lawyer explained that interplanetary law generally supported an individual's right to pursue education and self-determination, even if it conflicted with private contracts. The key was proving that Zara was making this choice freely and not being coerced. During one of the legal meetings, the lawyer asked David a direct question. What is your relationship with Miss Zara? Are you romantically involved? David felt his face flush. We're friends, good friends. I care about her well-being and want her to have the opportunities she deserves. Zara glanced at him with an expression he couldn't quite read. Later, as they walked back to his apartment, she brought up the lawyer's question. David, I need to ask you something important, she said, stopping on the sidewalk. Your feelings for me? Are they romantic? David felt his heart racing. Yes, they are. But that's not why I'm helping you. You deserve these opportunities regardless of how I feel. Zara nodded slowly. I was wondering about this because my feelings for you have also changed, but I need you to know something important. David waited, hardly breathing. I cannot be sure if my feelings are genuine or if they come from gratitude and dependency. Zara continued. I have never had freedom to choose romantic partner before. I have never experienced relationship that was not arranged by others, so I need time to understand my own heart when it is truly free to choose. David felt a mix of disappointment and respect for her honesty. I understand completely. Your independence is the most important thing. Whatever happens between us, it has to be your choice, made when you're truly free. Thank you for understanding, Zara said, relief evident in her voice. You are a good man, David. That is why I need to be sure my feelings come from right place. The legal battle took another month to resolve, but eventually they won. Zara was granted permission to transition directly to student status without completing her original contract. The agency was required to refund the unused portion of David's payment, though he honestly didn't care about the money anymore. As Zara prepared to move into university housing, David felt a strange mix of emotions. He was incredibly proud of her accomplishments and excited for her future. But he was also going to miss her daily presence in his life more than he wanted to admit. I will miss living here, Zara said on her last morning, looking around the apartment that had been her first taste of freedom. This place taught me what it feels like to make choices about my own life. You can visit any time, David said, trying to keep his voice light. I'd like to hear about your studies and how you're doing. Zara smiled. I would like that very much. And David, thank you for treating me like equal from the very first day. You gave me gift of dignity, and that made everything else possible. As David watched her leave for her new life at university, He realized that their time together had changed him too. He had learned what it meant to care about someone else's happiness more than his own loneliness. Whatever the future held for them, he knew he was a better person because of Zara's friendship. 6 months after Zara started university, David's life had settled into a new rhythm. He still lived alone, but it no longer felt empty the way it had before. He had friends now, people he had met through helping Zara navigate Earth bureaucracy, other humans involved in interspecies programs, and even some of Zara's alien classmates who had become regular visitors to his apartment. Zara herself had flourished beyond anyone's expectations. Her professors praised her unique insights into cross-species biology, and she had already co-authored 2 research papers comparing life systems between Earth and her home planet. She visited David regularly, usually bringing friends from school, and filling his apartment with animated discussions about their studies. "David, you must meet Kex," Zara said one evening, introducing him to a tall, crystalline being from a planet called Theros. "Kex is studying human engineering and is fascinated by your work creating websites." David found himself becoming an unofficial mentor to several alien students, helping them understand human technology and culture. It was rewarding in ways he had never expected, and it kept him connected to Zara's world without being dependent on her attention. But David would be lying if he said he didn't still have feelings for Zara. Watching her grow more confident and independent only made him admire her more. She had cut her silver hair in a new style popular among Earth students, learned to drive a car, and even started a support group for other aliens transitioning to life on Earth. "You have created something wonderful," David told her one evening as they walked through the city after dinner. "How many students are in your support group now?" 23, Zara replied proudly. "And 3 humans who volunteer to help with practical things like banking and healthcare navigation. It started because I remembered how overwhelmed I felt. In first weeks, even though I had your help, most students arrive with no support system at all." "Your sister is still planning to apply for the program next year?" David asked. Zara nodded excitedly. "Yes, she has been preparing application with help from materials I sent home. Our parents are not happy, but they cannot argue with success I have found here. I have been able to send more money home than I ever could have earned in arranged marriage." They walked in comfortable silence for a while, enjoying the mild evening air. Finally, Zara spoke again. "David, I want to tell you something important." David felt his pulse quicken, but tried to keep his voice casual. "What's that?" "I have been seeing." "Counselor at university," Zara began. "Someone who specializes in helping beings who come from restrictive societies adjust to freedom. She has helped me understand many things about myself." "That sounds helpful," David said carefully. "Yes, very helpful. And one thing I have learned is that my feelings for you are genuine. They are not based on gratitude or dependency. They are based on respect, shared values, and emotional connection I choose freely." David stopped walking and turned to face her. "Zara, but I also learned that I need to be a complete person on my own before I can be good partner to someone else," she continued. "For past year, I have been discovering who I am when free to choose. Now I know." "And who are you?" David asked softly. Zara smiled, the confident smile of someone who had found her place in the world. "I am researcher, teacher, friend to many people. I am someone who chooses kindness but also speaks up for what is right. I am someone who believes beings from different worlds can learn from each other and build better future together." "You sound like someone I'd like to get to know better," David said, meaning it completely. "Good," Zara laughed, "because I was hoping you might want to try dating me, properly this time, as equals who choose to spend time together because we enjoy each other's company." David felt his heart soar. "I would love that very much." "There is one condition," Zara said, her expression becoming more serious. If we do this, it must be real relationship between two independent people. Not human helping alien, not grateful companion staying with kind benefactor. Just David and Zara, choosing each other freely. That's exactly what I want too, David replied. Their first official date was dinner at the small restaurant where Zara had first discovered Earth cuisine. As they talked and laughed together, David marveled at how different this felt from their early days as companion and client. There was no obligation, no contract, no artificial structure to their interaction. Just two people who had found something special together and chosen to explore it further. I have something to tell you, Zara said as they shared dessert. My research advisor has offered me opportunity to continue studies in graduate program. If I accept, I will be on Earth for at least 4 more years. What do you want to do? David asked. I want to stay, Zara said without hesitation. Earth has become my home. The work I am doing here matters. And she smiled at him. There are people here I care about very much. As they walked home together that night, David reflected on how much both of their lives had changed. He had started this journey looking for companionship to fill his loneliness. Instead, he had found something much better, a partner who chose to be with him freely, a purpose in helping others navigate cross-cultural challenges, and the expanded understanding of what it meant to truly connect with another being. David, Zara said, taking his hand as they reached his apartment building, thank you for giving me chance to discover who I could become. Thank you for showing me what real partnership looks like, David replied. They were no longer lonely, human and grateful alien. They were two people who had found each other across the vast distances of space and chosen to build something beautiful together. And that, David thought, was worth more than any contract or arrangement could ever be.